Hello friends, how are you today? I'm here to talk with you today about current trends. The current trends are amazing. I put these kind of angel wings behind this warrior dressed in Middle Ages style because we are receiving this amazing energy at the beginning of a brand new cycle astrologically, but also in human time. The last time that we had this cycle start was in the Middle Ages. It was in, I think, the mid to late 1200s. So, yeah. So, it seems like we're in a war, doesn't it seem that way? And it seems like this war is being fought behind the scenes. I mean, we have fireballs in the sky constantly the past few years. That wasn't normal before. I could go on and list things. And what I've been thinking about is what is mine to do, Because to a great extent, whatever is happening seems to be a reflection of a spiritual war. And often the best way to describe a spiritual war is as a choice from within. Do I align with the divinity that I am, that incarnated me? Or do I step away from that light and go have adventures further from the divinity that we are incarnate by? Both of these are valid choices. Why is that? Because the Creator gives us free will. But as I see it, I've been reading the astrology reports the last few months, and the energy at the beginning of the year, the natural year, which started April 11th, was supposed to be very powerful, the most powerful of, almost the whole year. Although amazing things happen later in the year in terms of Jupiter's movements. Anyway, that's literally months from now, but I happen to be good at strategy and vision, so, I just like to ping on those things and then live my life in the now moment. But through human history, there's been a lot of going out into the darkness and exploring all of the options and alternatives that are further from God, if you will, okay? And I think that we've had help with this in terms of non-physical forces, and that we maybe are becoming aware again. Maybe at one point we were aware of this and we lost the understanding, but we're becoming aware again of the effect of the non-physical in our lives and how we can be led astray or not. And I was talking with someone this week, and we had a personal conversation, and then the person was saying that it kind of made them feel vulnerable. And what I said was, I think it's okay if you own your authority. And I see these things as connected with the light that we are, that we're birthed through and by, that connection with the divine that, in my view, the soul connection resides in the heart, flows out to the body and the physical, and flows out to the energy field. So where we're at now is that for many years now, there have been conscious people, human beings, that have consciously been focused on clearing the darkness from the planet, from their lives, getting right. You could call it getting right with God. You could call it getting yourself together. But there have been many, many, many people incarnated who are able to do things like work on the astral. Now, this used to be a realm where you had to have very specific shamanic training and come up through an apprenticeship and this kind of thing. But there are people now who are just born with the understanding of how to do that, and there are just regular people walking around. You would never know who they are just looking at them. And so what it seems like is that as we're at the beginning of this it's an 800-year cycle. We're also at the beginning of 20 and 40 and other year cycles, 240-year cycles, but the really big one is 800 years, about 794 years to be exact. But I will link to where I have an article on the blog that has information, links about these cycles if you want to read about it. But basically, I think what's happening here at the beginning of this cycle is that in terms of the spiritual tension, the forces of darkness are attempting to assert themselves, and they gain power. Now I'm talking about non-physical forces, okay? I'm not talking about any specific people. I'm talking about forces that work through human beings, and that human beings can choose to be in service to unconsciously or consciously. And as a regular human being, it's pretty easy to sort of sort through. Actually, it's not necessarily easy. The process description is easy. the path is challenging. But, you can make the choice to sort through various areas of your life. And essentially, your beliefs, attitudes, feelings, emotions, choices of actions that align with life and promoting life. Promoting first your life, okay, because you have a right to be here. You're a soul embodied in human form. You have that divine connection. And the question of what enhances your life can be tricky. There are a lot of subtleties that come into play if you start to mentally think through it. But overall, when you check in, okay, with your heart, your intuition, your conscience, your inner guidance system, these will tell you if you're headed in the right direction for you. And that's why I love this image of the warrior, because you can see here how connected he is with the light. It shines behind him. It shines around him like a cover. And it shines through him. Essentially, he embodies this light. And he's a warrior of the heart, a warrior of love, a warrior of peace. And being these things sometimes means setting strong boundaries. And that can be done in various ways, depending on what this warrior is facing. But the act of being a warrior is honorable. It's very honorable because the warrior is guided from within by the divine. The reason I think that I'm using so many images here of the warrior, and I don't know if you can see in this one, you can really see, do you see the eye here behind him? And this eye almost looks feminine to me. You see, because we present in the body as men or women, but within us we can be male or female within. The energy and body packages can obviously change and be different and be, specific and unique to different people. But in general, here, this man has a female energy overlighting him. Isn't that interesting? So he's integrated, right? So this is, rather than being a warrior on one side of duality and taking a polarized position. And if you want to know more about this, I have an article I wrote called The 0-Point Solution for Your Political Aggravation. Essentially, this warrior steps forth, and the warrior is integrated. Therefore, all dualities are integrated within him, including the male-female duality. Isn't that wonderful? He becomes a truly whole human being, fully connected with the divinity that he is, ready to walk forward in love. And it's interesting because the love that we are is a very powerful force. And for a long time, I listened to descriptions of this, and I really didn't understand what was all this talk about love. Okay? What was all this talk about love, like being so powerful? Oh, it's all you need is love. Really? Like, I didn't get that. Okay? I just didn't understand that, how it applied really in living life. And I have come to understand the powerful nature of this force. So I was chatting with a friend of mine, Ralph, and he was describing to me this woman who is a light worker. Somebody had asked her a question about using light, and what they were talking about is that the light would burn these beings. In other words, that it was a way of removing these beings in some fashion. But let me explain something about this and how love is powerful. If you hold a non-physical within your body, within your heart and energy field, if you can embody the feeling of unconditional love and a non-physical entity approaches you, that is what I would call, I guess, a negative entity, okay? If it approaches you with malintent, all right, the closer that it gets, if you are holding, and when I say holding, I mean, let me upgrade that to embodying a state of unconditional love. If it approaches you, it will shatter, it will turn to dust, it will burn up in a flame. And so these things will happen in the non-physical. It can happen several different ways, and burning up is one of them. However, if I'm a warrior, now this is essentially what being a warrior of love is. Okay, so here I am. I'm going to just illustrate this here. I can do this one of two ways, okay? One of two ways. I can come at the non-physical being from a polarized perspective. And then if I burn up another being in the non-physical, I want to explain what this does. It creates karma for the person doing that. If they just take action, it can create karma. It creates energetic detritus that will also need to be removed from the planet. It creates a relationship between the person doing that and the entity. It just creates a lot of drama. However, if I'm in my center as a warrior of light, as a warrior of love, if I am in my center, and in my center I embody fully unconditional love, and a being approaches me, the same thing can happen. It could burn up. It could turn to dust. It could drop body. It could drop body in the fourth dimension, okay? Because just because something's in another dimension doesn't mean it doesn't have a body. It's just that it's not within the visible light spectrum that we're able to perceive with our human eyes. But we can perceive these things with our clairvoyance and other extra sensory perception that human beings have. So if I do this centered within from a state of unconditional love, and the being walks towards me, then what is happening is the being is making a choice, conscious or unconscious, it doesn't matter. The being walking towards me, walking towards this warrior, embodying unconditional love, as it walks towards the warrior, it's going to feel the effects of that. And there's time there for it to choose to turn away. Assuming the warrior doesn't hunt it down. But that depends on what the divine guidance is, right? For this being, for the warrior. But let's just say the warrior is simply static, okay? He's just standing there. He's standing there in the forest. An entity approaches. It has time, okay? Because as it approach, it is going to feel the power of that unconditional love. And here's what happens. Like an opera singer who sings and starts to vibrate a crystal glass, and the glass starts to shake, vibrate. Is it a crystal glass or just a regular glass made out of sand? I guess sand is crystal, so it's still applies. But at the right pitch, the glass could vibrate and then break apart. That's what the unconditional love is doing here. So as an entity, if I'm an entity, okay, and I walk up and approach this warrior, I'm in a lower, denser state of energy. Maybe I'm very compacted here. I'm very compacted down here. If I dare approach this warrior, do you know what happens? If I don't move away, then what happens is the form will break apart, just like an opera singer hitting just the right pitch and the glass shattering. Now, here's the difference doing this from a state of unconditional love relative to a state of being polarized. This is good, that's bad. Point of view, for example. When you are in a state of unconditional love and you apply this technique, the being of density feels the unconditional love, and it sparks their own connection with their own source, with their own ultimate soul. And it then becomes a soul level choice as the entity approaches the warrior of unconditional love. It becomes a soul level choice to change form. And then when that happens, the warrior is providing a service of the highest order to that soul.